And now on talkSPORT Extra Time, he's a Friday regular, and he helps us out by going through all the TV listings, the film listings, and finding you 1, 2, 3 top movie recommendations you can see via Freeview on the small screen in your front room. From big screen to small screen, courtesy of our mate, Mr. Friday, it's Van Connor. Good morning, Van, and how's your week been?
Good morning to you as well, Mr. Ross. A terrific week as always.
And you've got an interesting title, Phil. Many of us, after the pubs are shut tonight, might feel a wee bit nauseous. We might be going for the big sick, but that's your first movie recommendation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a movie I saw with really no expectation going in, and absolutely fell in love with. It's kind of the big feature breakout role for Kumail Nanjiani, who I think most people know from the TV series Silicon Valley now, and it's actually sort of a fictionalized take on how he and his wife met, which is he was a stand-up comedian.
Oh, right.
She came to one of his shows. Yep. They met. They fell for one another. She had a medical condition that put her into a coma just after they started dating, and while she was out for the conch, he was left to basically tend to her parents, who were visiting and under the impression that they were a lot further along in their relationship than they actually were. I've got a clip for you of their very first meeting after one of his shows.
Okay, it's BBC Two. It's 11:05 tonight. It's The Big Sick. Let's have a listen.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Kumail.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, we saw you perform.
Now that the niceties are out of the way, I have to tell you that when you yelled at me, it really threw me off, and you really shouldn't heckle comedians. It's so rude.
I didn't heckle you. I just woohooed you. Just supportive.
Okay, that's a common misconception. But yelling anything at a comedian is considered heckling. Heckling doesn't have to be negative.
So if I yelled out, like, you're amazing in bed, that'd be a heckle?
Yeah, it would be an accurate heckle.
Cool.
I've actually seen this. I've just remembered. I did see this. I think I caught it on a flight. So it's a funny film, this, isn't it? A cute film.
It really is. And you'll remember this for the parents being played by Ray Romano and Holly Hunter. Absolutely. And they're both absolutely terrific in it. But the big selling point of the film really is the script, which is actually co-written by Kumail and his wife, Emily Gordon. And it's a really funny, really sweet script. It's a lot like a sort of a modern cross-cultural version of While You Were Sleeping at times.
Oh, there was Sandra Bullock film.
Yes, the very same.
Good stuff. Okay, now, I was spoilt for choice on Sony Movies Classic this morning. It's on Freeview Channel 50, folks, or Sky 319, Virgin 424. If you've not checked it out, I love this channel. I could have gone for 9 o'clock tonight, The Colour of Money, with Paul Newman and Tom Cruise, the sequel directed by Martin Scorsese to The Hustler, but we referred to that a few weeks back. So I've gone for something. Now, set your record for this, folks. 10 to 10 this morning, you heard me right, Quentin Tarantino presents Dean Martin, Sharon Tate and Co. in a kind of American James Bond spoof, one of the Matt Helm films called The Wrecking Crew. And the reason Tarantino's presenting it, and he does a little intermission chat, and he then backhandos it, as we say in the trade afterwards, is because he says it's one of the films that kind of influenced the feel of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's not the best film in the world. It is fun. I say record it because then you can fast forward through some of the more boring bits. But I have found, if you remember, folks, it's 10 to 10 this morning, Sony Movies Classic. I found you one of the great trailers of all time, obviously knocked off around a coffee break or something. It's Dean Martin doing his drunk act, introducing you to the female cast members of The Wrecking Crew in his inimitable late 60s sexist way and pretending to get their names wrong. Have a listen to this.
I'm Dean Martin, and I have a fine introductory offer for you. I'm offering to introduce you to these 4 lovely ladies who work with me and Nigel Green and the new Matt Helm picture, The Wrecking Crew. Now, I want you to meet Elkie Summers, and Tatey. Sharon Tate.
Yeah.
Lovely girl. Nancy Cohen. Lovely little Jewish girl, Nancy. And we have and Dina Louise. Tina Louise, who are in this picture, and we have a lot of fun in the picture. I've played in a lot of foursomes. I'm only kidding. It's Elkie Summers, Sharon Tate, Nancy Kwan, and Tina Louise. And I've been in a lot of foursomes in my day, but these girls, they have a stance, a grip, and a swing all their own. And right now, I'm going to hit a ball right into you, so watch yourself forward. Yeah.
should have said, when he talks about the grip and the swing, he was holding a golf club throughout that whole trailer. It's a cracker, though. I do like these Quentin Tarantino introductions to films, many of which I'd never even heard of before, but they provided a subtext, didn't they, for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Well, more than that, I mean, the Wrecking Crew features quite prominently in the film as well, because obviously it was Sharon Tate's last role, and she's shown within the film, as played by Margot Robbie, actually going to a screening of it. And more than that, it actually ties into the Bruce Lee element of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well. And Bruce Lee was credited as, I think he was the karate instructor on the film.
Absolutely.
And was shown within Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, was shown him choreographing Sharon Tate, him teaching her his moves. It's obviously part of that big controversial scene that's in there. But the Wrecking Crew, I'm not surprised you picked that trailer, Paul, because I can absolutely picture you in a sort of velveteen suit.
Oh, if only.
Swinging through
cravats, fully shirt, and said, "Hey, Pally, where's the martini?" Anyway, we want to go now to tomorrow, to Saturday, and you've picked an absolute corker for us. It's E4. It's 9 o'clock tomorrow night, and it is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Talk us through this one, Van.
So Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which was the second of what until recently was thought to be a trilogy of rebooted Planet of the Apes movies. It's recently come out that we are going to get a fourth one on the back of the Disney Fox merger, so this series will be continuing. The second one is when the story kicked up a notch, though, and went from a sort of Sci-Fi Channel level, low rent kind of a movie that we got in Rise of the Planet of the Apes to something a lot grander, and that came with the addition of director Matt Reeves, a new score by Michael Giacchino, and just a beefed up, more vocal role for Andy Serkis as the now motion captured lead Caesar the Ape, Caesar the King of the Apes, aka the first and original talking ape. So in the sequel, you've got Gary Oldman as the villain. It takes place several decades after the virus has wiped out, the bunch of the humans. The apes have started their own civilization, and the surviving human beings, who are sort of rallied around a new human character played by Jason Clarke, set about trying to reignite an old hydroelectric dam in order to restore electricity to the human population and also benefit the apes. But of course, there are factions on both the human side and the ape side who would rather see that not happen. I've got a clip for you of Jason Clarke approaching Caesar with this offer for the first time.
9 o'clock tomorrow night, E4, it's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
I need to show you something. It's not far. Human lies! No, I swear. If I can just show you, then you'll understand.
I have enjoyed this trilogy so far, and it almost expunged the memory of the dreadful Tim Burton, Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, God.
That was a stinker, wasn't it? Absolute stinker. It's a cracking recommendation. I think I've got a belter for you as well. It's kind of a modern film noir set in, I think, 40s or 50s Hollywood. A great cast. Kevin Spacey, Guy Pearce, Russell Crowe being absolutely fantastic, and the gorgeous to die for Kim Basinger. It is, of course, LA Confidential. This is on tomorrow night, 11:40 BBC One. Even if you've seen this, folks, it is worth seeing just for Russell Crowe's ferocious performance, and the clothes in this are absolutely fantastic, are they not, Van? I mean, what a wardrobe, serious business. A great film, this as well. It did well at the box office. I think it won an Oscar or two, didn't it, as well?
It was very critically acclaimed when it came out. It was very buzzy around awards season. It was one of those films that came out in the sort of the tail end of the 90s. I think this was 1997, 1998. One of the great works of the late Curtis Hanson, who sadly passed away this past decade. But of course, the selling point of the film, the big marketing hook, was Kim Basinger in this femme fatale role as
Veronica Lake
almost. Veronica Lake, Lana Turner model thing. But also, it was the breakout role that we forget now for Russell Crowe, because we tend to think of it as Gladiator, but it was actually this 3 years earlier.
And we had two guys from Australian soaps in it, because both Guy Pearce and Russell had done their time, I think, on Neighbours and Home and Away, but they're a long way away from the Antipodes in this one. It's LA Confidential.
Yeah.
Gotta love this film. 11:40 tonight, BBC One. Here's the trailer.
They were three cops who had nothing in common. Freeze.
Big V, what are you doing here?
Hey, you know me, I'm keeping the streets safe, boys.
One would do anything to get ahead.
You're truly prepared to be despised within the department?
Yes, sir, I am.
One had his own brand of justice.
How's it gonna look in your report?
It'll look like justice. That's what the man got.
And one loved the spotlight.
What exactly do you do on the show, Jack?
I teach Brett Chase how to walk and talk like a cop.
The Night Owl Massacre. This is a heinous crime that requires swift resolution. 6 victims. One of them, one of our own. Interrogations will be led by Lieutenant Edmund Exley.
I need some backup. Come on.
All right, college boy, I'll help.
Now, all of them are faced with solving one case.
Don't move. I want confessions, Edmund.
Oh, I'll break them, sir. These people are all in the morgue. And someone has to pay for it.
There's something wrong with the Night Owl. I just can't prove it.
They thought they had it all figured out.
Anything bothering you about the Night Owl case? The fact that you guys won't let it get filed away.
I didn't kill nobody!
But what started as a murder
Can you talk only to me on this one?
became a mystery that could cost them everything.
I love the way that from 97 the trailer felt like a 50s trailer. It's on right after Match of the Day tomorrow night. It's 11:40 on BBC One LA Confidential. Quite a bumper crop of movies on the 5 main channels tomorrow. We've got The Magnificent Seven on ITV, the remake with Denzel Washington. Cowboys and Aliens, which I love in a guilty pleasure kind of way, is on Channel 4, 11:05. And also tomorrow night, it's that 80s-tastic classic Cocktail with Brian Brown, but above all, your Tom Cruise. So those are the biggies. But can I go now to Sunday morning, if I may? Okay, now, again, it's an early one. Set the record for this. It's not a perfect Western, but it's beautiful to look at. Shot in Cinerama back in the early 60s, from 1962. It's got an amazing star cast. Too many for me to list. You'll hear them in the trailer. It's on ITV4, 7:50. Again, you might want to record it and whiz through the ad breaks or whatever, called How the West Was Won. Of course, it's very much from the European settler invaders perspective. There's not a lot of thought or time given to the dreadful fate of many Native Americans in this one, but it is a spectacular film to look at. It's a kind of almost the end of the 50s cycle of westerns, and then it's kind of swept away by the arrival of the Sam Peckinpahs and people. Still a cracker though. How the West Was Won, and here's the trailer.
Already acclaimed and applauded the world over, in How the West Was Won, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Cinerama have brought together the biggest and most distinguished all-star cast in entertainment history, characterizing the men and women who conquered the wilderness, finding a new life in this immense human saga of the American West. James Stewart is the mountain man. Henry Fonda is the plainsman. Adventurers such as these first explored the land. Then came the settlers who traveled the waterways, like the Prescott family, Carl Malden and Agnes Moorehead, and their daughters, Carol Baker and Debbie Reynolds, who left the frontier for a gayer life. There were the good and the bad, river pirates like Walter Brennan, notorious desperados like Charlie Gant, portrayed by Eli Wallach, and Lee J. Cobb as the dauntless U.S. Marshal who tracked him down. There were the gamblers and the entertainers. Gregory Peck is Cleve Van Valen, lucky in cards and in love. There was Robert Preston as the wagon master who loved in vain. And Thelma Ritter, a friend in need. Here, too, were the North, Andy Devine, and the South, Russ Tamblyn. And the famous of history, John Wayne as General William Tecumseh Sherman, Henry Morgan as General Ulysses S. Grant, and Raymond Massey as Abraham Lincoln.
I mean, and that is only halfway through the trailer. I mean, it's a spectacular film, very, very much of its time. And as I say, it completely ignores the terrible devastation and genocide that happened to the Native Americans. But it's still a very glossy kind of, it's a thrilling Western adventure, that one, Ben. I've got to have a Western recommendation every weekend, haven't I?
Of course you do. You really do. The weird part about that, I was listening out for George Peppard, but no mention of him in there. And the thing I always remember about How the West Was Won is because it was shot in Cinerama. They had a hell of a time in the last sort of 20, 30 years when they tried remastering the film for modern formats.
They'd scope it, wouldn't they? They'd try and scope it in vision. They're terrible.
And the thing they wound up doing, they did finally give it a full restoration. I think it was in the last 7 or 8 years. And what they had to do to restore it was to actually build a modern tech Cinerama screening room. And if you buy the Blu-ray of the film now, you can still watch it in what's called the smile effect, where your TV actually shapes to Cinerama.
Oh,
and that is actually something you
slightly circular, yeah, just kind of curved screen effect.
Exactly. I'd imagine if you buy one of those curved OLED screens, you could probably get the full value for it, though.
And a big voiceover on that from Spencer Tracy as well in the film itself. That's 10 minutes to 8, Sunday morning on ITV4. You want to end with a film I've not even heard about before, Money Monster, which is on, when's it on? On Sunny Movies, I think, and that's 11:05 Sunday night. Tell us a bit about Money Monster, Van, if you would.
11:05 Sunday night. You're going to be kicking yourself for not having heard of this because it's the kind of film I think you'd really enjoy, Paul. So first of all, it's directed by Jodie Foster. It stars George Clooney, it stars Julia Roberts, it stars Dominic West and Jack O'Connell. And the idea is, do you know that show on CNN? I think it's called Stark Raving Money or something like that, where the crazy guy takes a baseball bat to coffee mugs and things like that.
Oh, right, it's a kind of very accessible finance news show, that one. Tabloid finance news.
That one, yeah. So George Clooney is a sort of parody of that character, sort of a satirical take on that character. It's played completely straight, though. And the idea is he at some point has given out financial advice that for one man, played by Jack O'Connell, who's a sort of blue-collar, working-class man, has gone horribly wrong. Jack O'Connell has lost his life savings because of this. He's got a pregnant wife at home. He's finally snapped. He turns up at the studio with a gun, takes the studio hostage, and it's left to Clooney on air to have to talk this man down while the police are storming the building outside and trying to find their way in. And Julia Roberts is the put-upon producer in the booth, working as the go-between between what's going on in the studio and the cops on the outside. And I've got a clip for you of Jack O'Connell stating his, expressing his rage, we'll say.
Here we go.
Shut up about the glitch, all right? What the hell does that even mean? You see, you don't even know. I'm not stupidly, I told you. Because somehow these clowns lost $800 million overnight. Overnight. And nobody's even actually explained how. How is something like that even possible, huh? It's not a rhetorical question. I want an answer.
What do you want from me, man? I don't run IBIS. I'm just a guy on TV.
Now, shut up, Lee! Shut up!
Sounds like a goodie. Sounds like a kind of a network de nos jours for our times, Van. Van, always an absolute pleasure, matey. Tell people where they can find you and Rebecca Perfect's musings on matters cinematic.
You can find our 7-day guide to everything movies on all podcast platforms every Friday morning under the title Off Screen.
Brilliant stuff. Can we do it all again next week?
Sounds like a good plan to me, Mr. Ross.
And we're joined in the wee small hours of Monday morning by Rebecca Perfect for a definitive entertainment roundup. All that and more still to come on talkSPORT.